Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today called Israel's actions in Gaza fully justified and proportionate. He made his first public statement since the announcement of the latest ceasefire that appears to be holding.
Israel deeply regrets every civilian casualty, every single one. We do not target them. We do not seek them. The people of Gaza are not our enemy. Our enemy is Hamas. Our enemy are the other terrorist organizations trying to kill our people.
The Prime Minister detailed how Hamas mortars have been fired, tunnels dug from civilian areas near schools, mosques. Also today, delegations from Israel and the Palestinians in Cairo for another round of peace talks. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry calling on both sides to use the ongoing 72-hour truce as a stepping stone to restart more far-reaching negotiations. Joining us now, George Birnbaum, the former chief of staff for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and currently the CEO of political consulting firm GEB International. Great to have you here.
Good to be with you, Lou.
I have to say, it's peculiar to me. It strikes an odd note that the Secretary of State would be offering counsel to the government of Israel and to Hamas. Since you already had been parties to a 72-hour ceasefire negotiated by the Egyptians, which had been the preference, apparently, of not only the Israeli government, but Hamas. Is this administration being helpful, or are they becoming intrusive?
I don't know that they're being helpful or intrusive. I think they're trying to find a way to be relevant in a region where they've become irrelevant. The president sent Secretary Kerry to try and broker a ceasefire, and they went straight to Qatar and Turkey. People who are not liked well by the Egyptians, not moderate at all. Remember, Qatar's hosting 5 al-Qaeda operatives that were released from Guantanamo, not to mention funding Hamas. The Turks called the Israelis worse than Hitler during World War II. And these are the people that are supposed to negotiate an honest ceasefire agreement between the Israelis and Hamas. It's a little ridiculous. So I think they're trying to be relevant in a situation where they become irrelevant. The Egyptians are the true broker for the ceasefire right now.
And I think a lot of people are perhaps somewhat surprised that the Egyptians and Israelis share such common perspectives that they would be considered, as an Arab state, an honest broker for these negotiations, particularly after the breach between Egypt and the Obama administration. The ouster of Mubarak and the ascension of General Sisi.
Well, remember, in between, it was Morsi that was raised to be the president via the backing of the United States, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Egyptians know all too well what fundamental Islam means to a country from within, not just from without. And so they understand exactly what Israel is fighting against, and that is why they're such a good broker for this negotiation.
Would you argue with this view, which happens, I truly believe that Israel has come out of this conflict with a stronger position, a stronger image in the world media than in previous conflicts over various years? And I don't know that it was manufactured in those eras, but let's say that there was a anti-Israeli view. Mm-hmm. That view was constrained this time, and Netanyahu could not have been more direct, more forceful in saying he will pursue his nation's interests, come hell or high water.
Right. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that early on in this conflict, the Israelis agreed to 5 ceasefires, all of which were broken by Hamas. And once that occurred and people around the world saw exactly the true face of Hamas, that they were not interested in peace. They were interested in terror and murder. Once they saw that, I think it helped Israel's position quite a bit.
And where does Israel go now? And what is your government's hope for the future?
Well, the hope is that the Israelis and the Palestinians can live in peace, side by side, 2 states, as has been offered by Prime Ministers Sharon, Netanyahu, Barak, Olmert, and by presidents, George Bush, so President Obama. 2 peoples living side by side. But 2 peoples living side by side can only occur when both those people want to actually live, not when one side wants to continually die. It's not the Palestinians, it's the people who are controlling the Palestinians right now. It's Hamas, it's Islamic Jihad, even elements of al-Qaeda, which exist in the West Bank and Gaza. We need to get rid of those fundamentalist Islamic elements before we can really, truly make peace and live side by side, which is all the Israelis want to do.
Is it not perturbing to the Israeli government that the Egyptian government would have a better sense of alliance and cooperation with the Israeli government in fighting a common enemy, that is radical Islamists, than apparently is shared by this administration?
Well, you know, this administration doesn't really care about the sovereignty of its own borders along the Mexican-American border. Why would they worry about the sovereignty of the border between Israel and Gaza? So I'm not totally surprised by this administration's point of view. However, I would say that from the point of view of fighting fundamentalist Islam on your own territory, I know that we all suffered September 11th, but this is a daily thing Israel fights, fighting Islamic terror from within. Same thing that Egyptians go through on a daily basis. And so I think that common denominator helps the two sides understand better than someone from overseas what it means day to day to have to really uproot Islamic terror in order to live in peace.
George Birnbaum, always good to see you.
Thank you very much, Lou.